Welcome back to Tell Me More with me, CJ Quartlbaum. Tell Me More exists to help bridge the gap in our intergenerational workplace dynamics, build better leaders, and ultimately prepare for the future. A big part of our future is health and wellness. It is taking care of ourselves, our bodies, the people around us. And honestly, we haven't really been taught how to do that well. So today I get to be joined by a good friend, Molly England, to talk to us about wellness. Molly, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you so much, CJ. It's great to be here. Thanks for inviting me to be on your podcast.
I am excited to talk to you again. There's another podcast that I host. It's called the Cycling for Change podcast. That's how Molly and I met. And that was a great conversation that I can't wait to release to you guys as well. But here, the focus is a little bit different. So we get to have another very enriching conversation. So Molly, tell the people about yourself. Who are you? Where are you from? And what do you do now?
Awesome. So I'm Molly England. I am from Los Angeles, California, and currently I live in Huntington, New York. We spent in between those two places, we lived in Texas for 8 years in the Woodlands. But we've been in New York now for maybe 8 or 9 years. And I have a long work history as a social worker. So I got my master's degree in social work after studying psychology in my undergraduate degree. And when we were in Texas, I didn't really want to settle down there. I was ready to move on. Granted, we did stay there for 8 years, but I worked as a stay-at-home mom. And I also had a natural childbirth education job. So I on the side on Saturdays would teach uh, couples who are pregnant how to prepare for their birth. And if they were hoping to have a natural childbirth, we would work on breathing techniques and all of the ways of navigating the medical healthcare system to feel empowered during their birth. And that was a really cool job that I had. And then when we moved to New York, I worked part time at the library and I eventually got a job at ECLI Vibes, which is what brought us together, CJ, because that's how I met Dr. Paulus and worked in the human trafficking field on Long Island, which was extremely enriching and very rewarding and very difficult, I would say, very heart wrenching. And after that work, I ended up taking a break and I wrote, speaking of fiction novels, we were chatting before about uh, Santosh's wife's fiction book that she's done a few of, you said, but I also wrote, it's a manuscript at the moment. It's not published yet, but that was like a 3 month kind of almost manic episode of just writing and writing and writing every day because I had no other work besides being a mom and a wife and a daughter and all of my roles and my identities. But I really knew that I wanted to take advantage of that 3 month kind of time off to write. And so I did that. And then I ended up going into private practice. So now I work as a clinician. I am an LMSW, so I'm a licensed master social worker. So I work for a few private practice organizations. And then for myself, I work as the founder and owner of Willow of Wellness, where I do health and wellness coaching. I was in a really great program through Harvard Medical School, and I learned all about health and wellness. I mean, more than what I knew, just a lot of current research. And that really helped me to feel confident in working in this field to kind of enhance my clinical private practice work and also to expand on the demographic that I was reaching and the type of work that I was doing. So that brings us to today.
I have so many questions, so many. And I'm going to try to organize this in my mind so I remember them all. I'm going to
Sounds good.
start with what, for me, is the most important question.
Yes.
How did you leave LA? It's 77 and sunny year round. It's the second best food city in this country. What were you thinking?
Oh my gosh, I ask myself that question pretty much every day, especially during November to April while living
Yes,
in New York.
yes.
Yeah, so my whole family always lived in LA. And after I had my first daughter, my husband is from the UK. And so we kind of had to go where the work was here in the States. And he got a job in Texas working at the airport in Houston. And I was on maternity leave at the time. So rather than going back to my job, we thought it made a lot of sense for me to stay home with my daughter and follow his career at that point in our lives. And so we did that. And it was very difficult, very difficult. And once you leave, you realize how expensive it is. So it's hard to go back.
But so here's the hard part because you go from LA to Texas, which from a cost perspective, I understand, but then
Yeah,
you end up in New York.
I know. I know. And it's funny because Huntington is like, we ended up finding like a really beautiful home, probably like a fourth of the size of our house in Texas. But we live within walking distance to Huntington Village, and it's really not something that we could afford even in LA. So it's not like New York City prices. Like it feels a little more reasonable. And the fact that we can walk to like a coffee shop or to a bookstore from our home kind of is the reason why we know we'll probably be here forever. We love it.
I'm actually surprised that I haven't bumped into you in Huntington because I walk around. That's my place to go walk. I like a
Nice.
good long walk. I'm from Brooklyn, so
Okay, yeah.
I'm used to walking.
Yes.
And where I live, 15 minutes away, it's not a walkable town.
Right.
So I come to your town a lot. I go to the gym over there. It's got some
Nice.
of my favorite coffee shops in the area.
Yep.
So I get it.
We'll definitely be
Now,
running into each other starting
yeah.
now, I bet.
But yeah, like even last night there was something in the village. I drove past going to the Y and the streets were blocked off and some
Yes.
summer fest. I'm like, how did I not know about this?
Exactly. Same. I saw the poster. It's every Thursday or like for at least 5 Thursdays of the summer. I missed all of them. I think there's one more, maybe next Thursday. So maybe I'll see you there.
I'll be away next Thursday. I'm going
Oh
out
no,
east.
such a
I'm
bummer.
so mad they didn't promote this better.
They didn't. They didn't. I actually knew this Thursday street fair block off the street was happening in other towns and had no clue that it was happening in Huntington.
Insane.
I know, but we
Insane.
did just join the Y, so I haven't been yet, but I might be seeing you there too.
You will see me. I'm there 4, 5 days a week.
Good for you.
Sometimes I go at odd hours, but I just make sure I get there.
Good for you. That's so great.
Which kind of dovetails into our conversation about the work you do as a wellness coach.
Yes.
Can you tell me a little bit more about that?
Yeah, so it's relatively new. I really care so much about helping others put themselves first. I spent so many years, as many parents do, looking after others and neglecting myself to the detriment of my marriage, to the detriment of my mental health and my physical health. And my kids were thriving. So that all that energy was working in some direction, but it wasn't sustainable without really taking care of myself and particularly my mental and physical health. And so, knowing that I wanted to get into clinical practice, I also wanted to be really flexible because not everybody is interested in going to therapy. Sometimes therapy is like a capital T bad word. Maybe they've had bad experiences or they feel like it might involve being too vulnerable and they're not ready for that. But the goal is really just to improve your health and to prioritize yourself. And so I knew that coaching would be a great happy medium to do that. Um, yeah, so the Y is a great place to do that. My kids now go there on their own. Two of them are old enough to just go to the Y and work out. Like my son's like checking out his muscles and stuff. It's so cute. So, like prioritizing our physical health is so important. And then I think that's just hand in hand with your mental health because you get to feel those endorphins and feel good about yourself at the stage that you're at in that moment. So it's not about the future goals. It's about like that day. How are you showing up for yourself? And I think that can be really empowering.
I want to hone in on what you said to start about not focusing on your health because you were so busy taking care of everyone else. And I feel like this is a trap. A trap seems like a hard word, but it's a trap that a lot of parents fall into where my primary role is as caregiver and I'm not taking care of myself. I'm not sleeping. I'm not eating well. I'm not exercising. And then there's also the effect that it has on your marriage because it's very easy to become business partners. You become two people who are making sure the kids are taken care of without while neglecting your marriage. What was in all of those things, what was kind of the wake up call for you that something needed to change in what you were doing when it came to your personal health?
Yeah, so there was two wake-up calls. One was specifically for me and one was for our marriage. So the one for me specifically was I remember just somebody like randomly being like, you make lunch for the kids. Like, do you make yourself lunch? And I was like, no, like I drink coffee. Like, why would it had not occurred to me to like also make food for myself during the day, like especially breakfast and lunch. And so I remember it wasn't until we moved to New York when I started to feel a little more present and a little less depressed and more able to focus on my health. And I started to make breakfast for myself. And that was a game changer. And I realized how simple it is to take care of yourself by just nourishing yourself with a healthy breakfast to start the day. Because a lot of my cycle of eating would be restricting, whether intentionally or not, and just drinking coffee and then binge eating late at night once I finally had time to myself and just eating mindlessly in front of the TV and not the healthiest options. And that's a vicious cycle because then I would wake up feeling guilty and then I wouldn't, or I'd be distracted with the kids and then so I wouldn't eat lunch or breakfast. So once I started nourishing myself for breakfast, I was able to approach my day in a transformative way with like the priority being me and then everyone else around me. So that's my individual answer. And then I can go on to my marriage answer too, if that's cool, CJ.
Yeah, go for it. I was
Oh,
gonna say, no one tells you about all the extra calories you eat just cleaning up after your kids half eaten food.
right, right.
Where you're like, oh well, you left had this half a sandwich behind. I'll just have that. And that almost becomes your nourishment
Yes.
when in reality you're eating scraps. And just mentally, psychologically, the impact that has on you is profound.
I'm so glad you mentioned that because once I started having breakfast and that led to eating lunch and that led to eating dinner and like 3 meals a day with like a few snacks in between, my kids would hand me their crust of their pizza, of their grilled cheese, of their quesadilla. And I'm like, they're like, here you go, mom. Like they really genuinely were like providing for me. And I'm like, oh, you guys, like, I don't eat your crusts anymore. Like I actually eat meals with you. And it was transformative. Like I said, like you're so right. It's just, I am worthy of more than just your crust.
Yes. I'm going to put that on my tombstone. I am worthy of more
Totally.
than your crust.
Exactly. That's a bumper sticker.
That's so good. That's going
Yeah.
to be the mantra for parents.
Yes.
That's what's coming out of this. All
Yes.
right, tell me about the wake up call for your marriage.
Yeah. So my husband's awesome. We've been together since 2008. So you guys can do the math. That's not my forte. Let's see. So a lot of difficult times when we had young kids, like as you know, 3 kids at a lot for a while. There were like 3 kids under 5, and we lived in Texas with no family supports, just friends and nothing built in, not of economic like status where we could afford like a lot of childcare help. So when we moved to New York and I started working full time, I started to feel very empowered and was able to find my voice more in the marriage because I was actually contributing financially to our family, which really, really helped me gain independence and feel more autonomous and feel more worthy of my voice in the marriage. And that I think inevitably probably led to a little bit of strain because I was changing so much. And so a lot of my priorities were more around working and I dove into work. And also, my mental health was suffering because I wasn't getting the right kind of care that I needed. I had never considered psychiatric medication because I always, even though I could see that as being helpful for others, for myself, I thought, well, I will just do yoga and go for a run and kind of just handle it on my own. I didn't want to appear weak or something. It was very judgmental. But anyway, my husband ended up kind of saying to me, like, he feels like he doesn't know who to expect of me. So my moods were so dramatic that I felt kind of like Jekyll and Hyde, especially around the time of my period. And so I do have PMDD, which is like not that common, but it's basically like PMS, but more severe.
I
And
literally just learned about that
oh,
this
yeah.
week.
Yeah. It's not that commonly known, and I do think many it's probably more common than we know just because so many people do not get diagnosed because they just consider themselves to suffer through it or that it's just PMS, but if you feel very depressed or very anxious, like the week leading up to your period, and then as soon as you get your period, you feel back to feeling yourself, that's a very good indication that it's PMDD. And it's just more severe than PMS, those feelings right before you get your period. So I was like, okay, my husband's really struggling with me. I'm really struggling. Let me reach out for some support. So I ended up getting on an SSRI, which really did help stabilize my mood. And eventually we ended up getting into couples therapy. And that was the game changer that we needed to reconnect. And ultimately, I didn't realize this, but I had grown up not really respecting couplehood. Like, I definitely followed the expectations of getting married and then having kids and owning a home or like just settling down, quote unquote. But I don't think I ever realized that I thought that that also meant you were kind of codependent and maybe like a little weak in leaning on somebody to be self sufficient. So it wasn't until we had couples therapy, I read some amazing books, one of which is called Wired for Love by Stan Tatkin. And it made me realize the attachment styles that I had observed growing up and how those played out in my current life were really devaluing the idea of couplehood and the idea of marriage. So once I was able to be like, oh, actually, I love you, I need you, I want to lean on you, and I want us to be stronger together than we are individually, that completely transformed our marriage, and we live to tell.
Where do you think that formation came from in you? Those ideas around not respecting couplehood.
Uh, very, very many relationships in my family that did not last. And so lots of divorce. Um, the only people who are still married are this my generation of kids in my family. Everyone else previously in all like tree branches of our family tree are divorced. So it was kind of just obvious that marriage doesn't work and that there's not much value in it. Even though I still, wanted to get married and wanted to have kids, but maybe part of me was like, I think you have to be married to have kids. I don't know. So once I started questioning what I had been observing, which was a lot of toxic relationships and a lot of autonomous women not needing men, I started to see that as less of a strength and more of just like another alternative, and was able to kind of value and see strength in couplehood, which has really transformed my practice as a clinician as well. I don't think I could be doing this work if I didn't respect the idea of couples as well as individuals.
Oh, that's really good. And I would imagine that a lot of us have been formed in similar spaces and maybe don't realize it. Like as we're having this conversation, I come from from a long line of strong, independent women. A lot of divorce in my family. Like there were I think I can think of one couple that lasted.
Mhm.
And when I think about my relationship with my wife, she called me out the other day where I'm kind of, you know, anxious about the future. And I'm like, yeah, but I need to have this and I don't have this I'm behind in this. And she's like, but it's we. I'm here with you. It's not just you. And as you're saying this, I'm like, yeah, like I come from a world of independence, and that independent streak will of course follow me into my marriage. So man, I'm about to go upstairs and kiss my wife. You just
Good. She deserves it. My husband was
yeah.
similarly kind of pointing that out to me, and I was like, yeah, I get it. But I really had not made the connections from like deep rooted models that I had through those kind of dysfunctional or like not that helpful attachment styles that I had internalized and didn't even know. So yeah, and also like we see independence in our culture just in general as like very, very healthy and very wonderful, but you can be both. You can be very independent and you can also like credit that strong person that's standing beside you, your partner, as the one helping you get there. So it's really cool. And we have a really great mutual relationship now. He's like, "Oh, there you are. I've been waiting for this you to show up." So he was very patient.
Yeah, yeah, that's kind of a testament to, his patience and his we'll call it's an old English word, but long suffering. in marriage, that this radical patience, where how many other people would have been like, you know what, you want to be on your own, go be on your own.
Mhm.
But he's like, no, I love you so much that I am going to stick around through this and I'm going to wait on your growth and your development and your maturity in this area. I think that our American, or we'll call it Western ethos of radical individualism,
Yes.
this is one of the ways in which it hurts us so much because none of us survive this life on our own.
Right.
None of us are so independent that we can exist without others. And
Exactly.
yet we love the self-made millionaire. We love
Yeah.
the self-made person, the independent.
Yes.
We valorize those stories, but how
Hmm.
many of those people are so profoundly lonely?
Exactly. That's exactly it. When I read in Stan Tatkin's book that babies need somebody, they need a primary caregiver to survive. The only animal or like species that does not is like a sea turtle or something. I did some research behind this. But the fact that if a baby needs somebody to survive, who are we to expect to survive and thrive on our own when from the very beginning of entering this world, we are leaning on another human being for connection and for growth and for nurturing? That just really rocked my world. I was like, oh, so it's been like this all along. I just never accepted it or even noticed.
I mean, there's a reason solitary confinement is the worst form of punishment in prison
Yes.
because
Yes,
our heads, our hearts, our beings are not wired for that level of isolation. And I
exactly.
say that as a maximum introvert. Like I
Yes, I
love
was
being
just,
alone,
yeah,
but I
me too.
recognize I need people.
Yes. I was just going to say exactly like I've experienced depression, which is a very isolating mentality. I am an introvert. I am very good at being social and love the spotlight introvert, which was also a realization during my growth journey. But yeah, it's like regardless of any baseline that we have, it includes connection. If we are denying ourselves the connection, we are suffering. Absolutely.
I call people like us high functioning introverts.
Yes, I
Mm.
like
We
that.
can go outside. We can give talks in front of hundreds of people.
Yep.
We can hang with you for hours. But the
Yes,
moment you're gone, it's like
exactly. Yeah, it's so confusing until I had a therapist that pointed it out. I was like, I think she's right. I'm definitely not getting my energy from the people. That's for sure.
tell me about your clientele. Is there a specific group of people that you work with?
So it's interesting with my health and wellness coaching, what has really started to take off is the parenting workshops. And I see following a lot of your work, CJ, like you cover so much in your Instagram posts and everything, but I know parenting is true to your heart for sure. And I'm very interested specifically in helping parents get comfortable talking to their kids about sex and their bodies. I think it's very taboo and very uncomfortable for most parents. And I have taught myself how to do it and have learned so much that just in very organic conversations with my group of girlfriends, like, they're like, wait, what do we say? My parents never mentioned this to us. Or they were like, no sex before marriage. That's the only conversation they had, or nothing. It was just TV shows and not even the internet back then. So I'm like, we can do better. We can definitely do better. So I've been doing parenting workshops specifically focused on sex education for parents and how they can just kind of notice their own relationship with their sexuality and their body and learn from that to build confidence so that they can then start the conversations with their kids at any age. It's never too late and it's never too early. You just adapt it to be age appropriate and also within what's right for your family.
This is so good. I was having this conversation with a guy. He's in his early 20s, and he was talking about the prevalence of porn addiction amongst his generation.
Hmm.
And he's like, he swears that I was born in like 1955, but he's like, you millennials, you just don't understand. And I'm like, yeah, I'm like, you're right. In some ways, it was very different for us growing up in that, if you wanted to watch porn, you had to have the cable channel, or if you were like my family, you had an illegal hot box and your mom was like, don't watch that channel.
Exactly.
Um, Or you went to a store and there was, I remember the magazine sections behind a curtain. It was like, those are the dirty magazines.
Yep.
You can't go there. And I'm like, for you guys, I mean, we all live in the same world.
Yeah.
It's just instant access all the time, 24/7. And the biggest difference between our generations is we went through puberty without the instant access, the constant access.
Yep.
If you are in Gen Z, we handed you a smartphone early because we didn't know. We
Yep.
didn't know the dangers. And your brains have been rewired and reshaped in such a way that you experienced too much too soon at too heavy of a traffic, and now you don't know how to deal with it. I have 16-year-olds who will say to me, I've been watching porn for 10 years. And I go, 10 years? What? And they're like, yeah, when I was 6, somebody in my family was watching it and they left it up on an iPad and they didn't close the thing out. Cause again, we all got this technology at the same time and didn't really know exactly how to use it. And they were like, I knew it was wrong. And so there's a shame that immediately overtakes, but I knew I wanted to keep going back. And now you've got 16-year-olds who are saying to me, I can't go to sleep if I don't watch a little bit of porn before bed. And
Hmm.
then 20-year-olds who are like, I can't perform in bed at 20
Hmm.
without having watching some porn first.
Exactly. I know. It's really wild. Like, it is wild. And I think parents are very naive still,
Yeah.
especially like, I mean, I think you're younger than me. I don't think you were born in the 50s, CJ, but like our
Only slightly.
general, our like demographic is a little bit clueless as far as how incredibly accessible a click of a button and there is whatever kind of fetish or kink or porn site pops up and they're targeting people to get them involved earlier. And I think parents think, oh, I need to like monitor. And that is not the answer. Like, there is no way you are monitoring what your kids are doing. And you can convince yourself of that by like taking down doors, getting bark, like doing whatever I think you can. Like, setting limitations on time frames, but there are workarounds and like they're gonna leave your home and go to a friend's house or whatever. So it's really about the conversations. Like, hey, if you're seeing something that looks really violent or that makes you uncomfortable, like you can talk to me. You're not going to get in trouble. And then also don't get them in trouble when they come and talk to you because that's like validating that you now broke their trust and so they're no longer coming to you. So that's a really hard one. Is like when they do come to you and they did something that's kind of sketchy or something that you were like shocked about, to hold that space and just allow for a non-judgmental conversation is such an opportunity that I think can be missed because of like punitive repercussions. And it's not their fault. The internet is coming for them. Like,
And
yeah.
it's, even if it's not the hardcore stuff, it is, sex is everywhere. It's the old adage, sex sells. It's the softcore porn that has infiltrated everything.
Hmm.
Like, I'm scrolling Instagram the other day and a woman pops up on my feed making bread in, what's it called? In an apron with no bra on and just like nipples poking out. And I'm like, you're making bread.
Yeah.
Are we sexualizing bread at
Yes.
this
Oh my
point?
God. That's
And it's,
true.
if you're young and your brain is forming and you're trying to figure out how to navigate this world, these are very confusing messages.
Yes.
It's a lot.
It's a lot. Yep, exactly. And so many adults don't know how they feel about their sexuality and maybe timid or maybe just newly discovering pleasure for the first time. And so there's so much work that we have to do as adults first in order to be able to guide our children or realize that they have a lot to teach you. Like that's probably one of the biggest parenting lessons I think for all of us is like newsflash, you will learn more from your kids than you teach them. And that even goes into the world of sex, like in the internet and stuff. Like they're going to be smarter about navigating the internet than we are. And we can just help them know what feels good and know what feels right and know where those boundaries are crossed. And also, like, how do we integrate the virtual world and the real world? So, like, when we have our first in person moment, like, are we expecting it to look like what we have seen in porn? Like, not did we see it in porn? When we saw it in porn, like that's just an assumption that is helpful to make. And then how does that look to create intimacy and real connection with humans in person and like not just creating an avatar? to like do
And
things with because that's
safety.
a thing. Yeah.
Yeah, safety. I
Yeah.
think especially, you talk about adults understanding their sexuality and their bodies, especially if you grew up in a repressive culture where your education did come from like hardcore porn or even just regular porn. It's
Hmm.
still like porn does not translate to real sex.
Right.
That
Exactly.
like but if that's all you know, and now you're in your 30s and you're trying to talk to your kid, but you're also navigating a difficult sex life with your spouse, there is so much work and education to be done in this
Yeah.
area. You're doing good work, but I
Thank
knew that
you.
already.
It just helps to talk about it. Like we have to remove the stigma and take away the tabooness of these subjects and just get comfortable like messing up. And that's one of the things that I say in my workshop is like, you're going to say the wrong thing and it's okay because you're human and we make mistakes. But allowing for that opportunity is way more important than trying to be perfect and never saying anything.
One thing I like to remind parents, because I find that a lot of parents just don't want to talk to their kids,
Mhm.
is
True.
if you don't talk to them, someone else is.
Yes,
And that someone else may not give them the answers that you want them to have
exactly.
because they're going to get the answers from somewhere. So toughen up, have the difficult conversation. Listen, go have a shot of whiskey after if that's what you need to bring your nerves down. But you
Exactly.
have to be willing and able to talk to your kids.
Yes, and, like, keep it short and sweet, so, like, when you get nervous and you're like, "Oh, I could use a shot of whiskey right now," like, stop the conversation, it's okay, it's like, the shorter the better, the little bite-sized pieces often is really helpful because they get overwhelmed too, so, like, they'll let you know, they're like, "Okay, that's enough, mom, like, enough of this talk," and you're like, "Okay, but don't worry, we're coming back to this, like, maybe tomorrow or whatever," like, it's not going away.
Yeah. Oh, that's good.
Yeah.
What else are you seeing with parents and their relationships with their kids or with their spouses that's coming up as common in your practice?
Well, it's a great question. So, with kids, I would say, like, on the back of the sex talk is, like, body image, and again, that really directly correlates to how our parents uh interacting or like connecting with their own bodies in order to be able to model how to relate to our kids' bodies, like how for them to relate to their bodies. And I think initially probably just mentioning that everyone, maybe not you, CJ, because you're a guy, but like I think most women immediately thought, okay, this is a girl topic. And it's not a girl topic. Like there's actually um, just as much pressure and just as much difficulties around body image with guys. I think it is definitely actually more talked about with girls, which is great. Like we've started that conversation, but I would say don't lose sight of your boys. And similarly with the sex conversation, like being a man and interacting with a partner is also a big responsibility. So, like, let's keep the flow of the conversations going both ways. So, body image is difficult. There's a lot of things on TikTok and just billboards or ads, like you said, where different body types are being idealized and are being really insidiously fed into our kids' brains as well as our own. And one of the most liberating moments for me as a parent was when, after years of like struggling with my body image and really trying to hide it and thinking, like, I know what's best for my kids. Like, I'm strong. You guys are like, I'm going to go for a run because I want to be really healthy and I want to have good muscles and like really trying to steer away from fat and from body shaming mentalities of like needing to be a certain weight. The most liberating moment for me was when I disclosed to my kids that like I did kind of want to lose weight because my clothes weren't fitting as comfortably and I didn't feel that great in my body. And I that wasn't me sending a message of like an idealized type of body, but it was me being very authentic. And I think that's the point that I want to make is like I really struggled because I was like this part of me that I was judging as not acceptable as far as like a good parenting mentality. And I think it broke down a level of a boundary between me and my kids once I was able to say like I struggle with this too. Like, I don't want to be thinner, but I'm also uncomfortable in my jeans and I don't want to buy a new pair. So I'm going to be getting healthy and fit. And I do hope to lose a couple of pounds because it'll be more comfortable for me and also healthier because I'll feel better about myself. So that was like a very nuanced moment for me where I felt conflicted and I felt, oh gosh, if I say this, am I condoning diet culture? And I really realized that I wasn't. And it's allowed for really vulnerable conversations for my kids to say, look, mom, like sometimes I think my thighs are big. And I'm like, wow, like that must be really hard. And we can like talk about it as opposed to us all pretending that we're perfectly happy in our bodies when sometimes we're not. A lot of times we're not.
That's so good because I feel like we tend to go in the extremes. We know what kind of diet culture and all of those things were like in the 80s and 90s, and now we as parents, we don't want to do that to our kids. So we fly too far in the other direction. And it can be just as bad because you're leading to these inauthentic, just dishonest moments.
Exactly.
I love that you said we need to pay attention to this for boys as well. As a boy who grew up with body dysmorphia and bodily insecurities, it never felt like there was a space for me to speak about what I was seeing in my own body and what I was feeling. And anytime I was brave enough to bring it up, it was readily dismissed. But
Hmm.
now I talk to these young guys and they're all growing up in this world of hyper airbrushed images and
Yes.
filters and just all of these different things that make they look and they go, well, if this is what I don't know who are the young guys looking up to? If this is what Timothy Chalamet looks like,
That's a good one.
yeah, if this is what young Chalamet looks like, then I need to do this. And you're starting to see, especially as things become more accessible and you have these corners of the internet, you're seeing young guys before they finish puberty getting on steroids. You're seeing young guys going under the knife like significantly earlier in life. And all of these things are starting to add up. And it still feels like a space where boys and men are not quite able to speak yet.
Yep, exactly. Well, thank you for sharing, CJ. Like it starts with one conversation and one person's vulnerability. And it's so true. And I really think that like whole boy mom, girl mom kind of mentality is like thinking, oh, some of us have it better than others because we don't have to deal with those issues of that gender. And there is no line. They all the issues cross both genders. So or all the gender identities. So there's really like no easy out here.
Yeah. And again, all what I'm finding is that so much of parenting is it's coming down to just having the conversations.
Yes.
It's being willing to talk to your kids, being willing to listen to them and taking their voices and concerns seriously. But
Yes.
I think for a lot of us, especially with our teenagers, we are so far removed from that time in our lives. And we don't have a steady stream of teenagers around us to keep us connected. So by the time our teens come to us with issues, we know that this isn't a big deal, but they don't know that yet. And that lack of empathy and grace for them where they are is what leads to a lot of the disconnection.
Yes, exactly. And if a simple tool, if you find yourself kind of like shutting down what they're saying or feeling like you're good, like not a big deal, or like maybe minimizing a little bit what they're saying, that is a great opportunity for you to be like, I wonder where that was coming from. Why did I feel the need to not listen? Or why did I want that conversation to be faster than it seemed like they wanted to have it? And in my workshop, we'll like journal just for 3 minutes about our own reflections on whatever the topic is, just to like open that box and get a little more comfortable in the uncomfortable silence of like whatever that experience was that's haunting us that we don't want to think about, because it does allow that space to be a little more open to your kids reflecting that moment back to you. Maybe you're having a similar experience and you're just like, well, I don't want to talk about that. I don't even talk about that with my own experience. And we can't listen if we're not also hearing our own voice about that same subject.
Yeah. And how often do we run from the things in our kids that
Yes,
that are a direct reflection of us?
totally.
Yeah. That's so good.
Exactly.
Oh, Molly, as we bring this to a close, I'm curious, what are your three favorite wellness activities or
That's great. Let's see. Okay, journaling, since I just mentioned it. And journaling does not have to mean, it can mean buying a really cute journal with lots of lined pages and every day writing in it. And I think that's an incredible exercise. And I do like assign that to a lot of people who I work with as like homework or as an intention for the week. And I was judging myself because I'm like, I don't really do that. But then I realized I post on the internet a lot. And that is my journaling. So I just prefer being the like odd introvert to like make my most vulnerable admissions public. So journaling can look like whatever you want it to be. It can be you talking into your phone and leaving audio notes. It can be jotting down some notes in your notes app of just like words that cropped up throughout the day that are meaningful to you. Or it can be writing in a journal or whatever it is. So I really encourage everyone to have, I should say, really just some time to self reflect. And then mindfulness. So another key thing that is very helpful for us all to incorporate into our day is some moment of mindfulness. And for many people, as soon as you say mindfulness or meditation, their brains have shut down now. Now we were talking about something that they are not interested in or that doesn't work for them, or they have too many thoughts racing to even try that. But mindfulness can be movement. So, like, if you are not comfortable sitting still, then walking and noticing the sounds that you hear, listening to the birds chirping, noticing the car engine starting, like, that's mindfulness. And then somebody recently on a podcast said, like, I don't meditate, but I do notice, literally just notice. And so, like, right now, I notice that I'm doing this podcast with you, CJ, and that we've had a lot of authentic moments. Or um, when I'm driving, I might notice that my thoughts are going to what's happening tomorrow. And I also want to be present in the day. So, noticing is a very simple and easy way to actually meditate and be mindful. And that really just means kind of stepping back from that exact moment and observing the moment, if that makes sense. It's in ACT, it's called self as context or the noticing self. So just like noticing is helpful. And third, I would say, let's think, connection. So connection would be whether that is maybe talking to your teen who, like you said, we often kind of just like don't really want to listen, especially if they're complaining. It's like, I don't have time for that. But being like, hey, how's everything going today? And if they like grunt and say, I don't want to talk, like you tried. And they know that when they do want to talk, because there will be that moment where you can't even turn off their talking, you're there for them. Um, I really like to encourage parents to reach out often to their kids, even when they're shut down, because it's the gesture of reaching out that has the meaning. It's like, oh, you do care. Continuing to give your kids a kiss at night, even when they're teens, like even when they go to bed on their own, you giving them a kiss. Or sometimes my kids tuck me in because I go to bed before them sometimes. And so they're putting me to bed, but we're still doing like a bedtime routine. It's just flipped. But yeah, connection. One of the things I always used to love when my grandpa was alive was calling my grandpa. I think connecting to like the older generations in our family is incredibly valuable. And like, I still do have one like living grandma who I call not often enough, but when we do, it's always like, wow, why do I feel so good about myself? I thought I was calling to make her feel better. So it's really powerful.
Grandmothers have a special way of doing that.
Yes.
All right, I have one more question before we go. It's something you mentioned at the very top of the podcast, and I kept it in my mind. Do you want to share about this manuscript?
Oh my gosh. Yes. Okay. Shout out to anybody who's a book agent. I'm like really looking for a book agent. So this will be another episode, CJ, whenever you have me back or
Yes.
at some point. I have a crazy story about my biological father, and it's kind of haunted me throughout my life and been like shut in a box. And then when I was 33, I went on a journey of self discovery and found him, and he was very disappointing. And so I was like, okay, that chapter is closed. And then my daughter said to me, she was referencing a filmmaker, and she said, sometimes people just make films or fiction work based on their reality, based on their experience. And like for some reason that had never occurred to me that you could do fiction based in reality. And I had so much fun. So I basically like did a spin on my own experience with my biological father, but I made up creatively how the story went. And there was retribution and vindication and so many strong emotions. And it's a powerful family saga, women's fiction journey. And I hope to get it published one day. So I'm in this never ending editing phase, and I'm trying to find other people now to read it and edit it. And hopefully one day I feel strongly that it will be published, that it will be in readers, like accessible to readers one day.
My hope is that it gets published and that both of our books are next to each other at Barnes and Noble one day.
Yes. I see
Wow,
it.
that is incredible. And I want to read this someday. This sounds like quite the story. Molly, tell the people where they can find you.
Yeah, so my website is willowofwellness.com, and that's where you can find everything about me. And I look forward to connecting with all of the people who watch your podcast, CJ. And I'm so incredibly grateful to have had this chance to just chat.
Me too. Thank you for joining me. And thank you for watching this episode of Tell Me More. Uh, Listen, I appreciate you. Like, comment, share, subscribe, all of the things. Drop a comment. Tell me what's one nugget you picked up from this conversation today. And I'll see you next time as I ask you